Welcome into another episode of the Person Behind the Pads podcast here on the Colts Audio Network. I'm JJ Stankovitz, joined today by linebacker Zaire Franklin. Zaire, thanks for joining us, man.
Of course, appreciate you having me.
So I want to talk to you about a lot about your foundation, Salicia's Angels, because some of the work that you've done through it I think has been really neat to follow since I started covering the Colts here a couple of years ago. But the inspiration for it comes from your mother, Shalise. But the work that you've done with it, how did the passing of your mother and grandmother in that 77-day stretch when you were in high school, how did that influence the work that you've wanted to do in your foundation?
Oh, man, it's influenced it a ton. I think, just the role that those two women played in my life and just the perspective that they gave me, not only just on women, on the world, on the environment around me, but also just what it meant to really have somebody really believe in you and that inspiration. So honestly, the whole ideal behind it, the genesis of it at its heart, is really me just kind of giving back to young women who were in situations that I was in. I feel like so many times, as athletes, we want to do the football camps. Obviously, when I pull up to a middle school, I'm talking to the young guys, they want, oh, who's the best running back you played? Or I can run you over. It's always stuff like that. And I love that. That's the stuff that motivates me, keep me going. But I feel like so many times, sometimes the young women are the ones that are overlooked in those communities. So, obviously I got a financial literacy background too. Obviously we got an entrepreneurial spirit. But I always make a, actual effort to make sure that I'm spending time with the young women, giving them experiences, giving them just safe spaces for them to talk about their struggles and their dreams and talk to other women who are successful about their journeys and what it took to actually, reach those places.
You've taken those women into a lot of male-dominated places, like tech companies, Google, Meta. I know you've done visits there. You did a visit to 76ers headquarters in Philadelphia. How cool is it to show them, and for them to see examples of themselves in those environments to be inspired to maybe go down that path?
Oh man, it's awesome, and it's so funny. I tell the girls all the time. I'm like, listen, I'm getting just as much out of this field trip as you guys are. Like I'm in there, I'm feeling like a kid at Google, at Meta, at the Sixers. And it's really cool. Like when we went to Meta. Obviously, we had a panel of women executives that work at the company. And, I think it was even therapeutic for them, for sometimes when you get in those situations and you're talking to kids, who are, just bright-eyed and just want to learn so much from you. It's almost like you're talking to yourself. And really just, especially at the last time at Meta, I really felt like, we created like that safe space for women, not only the kids and the 7th, 8th graders that we brought on a trip, but also the women on the panel to talk about, well, how did you overcome a failure? What did that feel like? What are some things that you could pass on to someone if you were in your shoes? How do you handle success? How do you handle dealing with these male-dominant spaces? And how do you find peace? Who are the people in your work environment that you lean on? And it ended up being, man, just a great conversation, great trip. Something I really enjoy. Bringing my fiance along. I have women on my board that I feel like learn a lot from it too. So. Like I said, I know it's great for them, but even us as adults, we get a lot from it too, because sometimes we don't really sit back and think about our journey like that either too.
For you, the tragedy of losing your mother and your grandmother in that stretch, I don't think a lot of people would handle it the way that you have, where you've taken that traumatic experience, but you've now tried to give back, inspired through it. Can you just take us back to those moments where, I know your mother was sick for a while. She had the, brain tumors and all that. But losing your grandmother in that stretch and just the couple of days after that, what was that journey like for you to kind of have to start of, hey, I'm in high school, but I kind of have to, kind of on your own now almost.
Yeah, honestly, it was like two different experiences in a weird way. So like, obviously my mom had been sick for a long time. So like, when my mom passed, in a weird way, it was almost like relief. It was like, every day I'm coming home from school. She's at my game. She's, moving around. She would drive me to school, but I understood what it took for her to do those things. I understood, the different things. Every 3 months, something came up. She had to go to another doctor visit. We got to go through another treatment. We might have to do this. So, like, when she actually passed, like, as much as it hurt to not have her, I was relieved, like, okay, she don't have to go through this stuff no more, because it was something that she was going to have to deal with for the rest of her life. So it was just a little bit of a different situation when my grandmother passed. I'm not going to lie, it was like like what? Like, you know what I mean? It was like everything stopped. I remember like just turning my head and it was a week later and it's the funeral. Like, it just felt like I just blinked. You know, I just kind of didn't know what was going on. And honestly, at the time, obviously I was taking like a week away from school and stuff like that, but I just really threw myself into just like being with my teammates. You know, at the time, my friends that I had at the time, man, I can't even give them enough kudos for just having my back and just supporting me and just being there for me. You know, I ended up staying at my friend's house because it was a house with us three. So when
Right.
they passed, I really was living by myself. I was in my house by myself because my aunt who would move in, she didn't move into the summer, so I was really staying there with just me and my cousin, who's basically my big sister. So I really was staying with my best friend at the time. He was driving me to school now because I didn't have my license. And just, I felt like at that time, so much was poured into me from my friends, from my coaches, from family members, obviously. And I felt like, just the village I had around me really just surrounded me. So, as I get older and I reach these different points in my career and in my life, it just makes me want to give back not only to the people who gave to me, but to people who are in positions to help support young people going through those type of situations, because I understand that it's like they always say, it takes a village. It's the people around you, that help you reach those pinnacles, especially during tough times.
And now for those kids, if you're a little part of that village
Of course.
through your foundation, through the stuff that you've done,
Of course.
how much gratification do you get out of that?
Man, it's crazy because it's just like when I grew up and when I was at their age, like I remember like being in school and I used to think like, are the Eagles real players? Like, I don't like, are they real people? I only see them on TV. They're like movie stars. Like, do they actually exist? Where they be at in Philly? Used to always think that. And I used to always tell myself, like, man, like, if I make it to the league, like, I'm going to make sure I come back. I'm going to make sure, that if I go, the kids know that I went to this school, because I always just thought that would be so cool. So, for me to go back to my middle school, go back to my high school, go back to Philly or even in Indianapolis, a lot of times it's for me to let the kids know that dreams are real. Like, dreams are, like, that's a real I'm a real person. I really was in your shoes. I was doing the things you did. You can obtain what I have. You could be just like me or better than me. You could reach these things. You could feel it. You could see it. You could see how I walk, talk, laugh. Because for me, so many times, if I could see it, I could achieve it. So I just try to be that example and that person for them, because I feel like if they could see me, they could feel me, they could understand, okay, I could reach my goals, whatever that actually is.
I mean, you're not just like a guy on the field.
Like some fixture or some made up caricature. Like, no, I'm a real person. Like, I pain, I bleed just like you bleed. And guess what? I went through struggles just like you going through, and it's going to be okay. You could get through that.
The financial literacy stuff, I wrote a story on what you did, back in February, but that aspect of it I think is really neat. When you lost your mom and your grandma, what did you have to do financially to kind of get through that period? Because you're going to private school. I mean, what did you have to do then?
Man, so it's funny. So at the time, LaSalle might hate me for this, but at the time, I think my high school cost like $18,000 a year to go to. So I transferred in my sophomore year. They gave me a scholarship, but we still had to pay a decent amount. We were on welfare, man. We were on food stamps. We were, my grandmother was very financially responsible. So it's not like we ever had our lights cut off or our water off, but we were just making ends meet. She was retired. My mom wasn't working, so she was, we were getting the welfare. But she always taught me, all right, look, this is how you pay your bills. This is how you balance your checkbook. She would walk me through those type of things. So obviously when my parents passed, LaSalle, God bless them, they helped take care of, they gave me a full scholarship so I could continue to go to school there. But, and when something tragedy happens, like especially like in a black community, I guess it's normal for the village, like, look, you lost your parents, I'm going to give you a couple dollars, I'm going to try to take care of you. But I understood, even from a young age at 16, like, hold on, like, this is it. I'm a full-time football player. I'm traveling for camps, then I don't have time for a job, you know what I mean? So I just understood, like, okay, look, I think I might have had, $1,500, maybe $2,000. And at 16, it's like, oh, man, I got something. But I understood, like, look, I got to make this last for like a year and a half until I go to college, or even until college. So it just kind of put me in like a survival mode when it came to like budgeting and learning, okay, this is what it feels like to have money, spend it, not have anything, or like this is how you allocate your money. This is when I first opened my first bank account. It was when I really first started, like I said, budgeting. And what I come to learn is, and I ended up getting my degree in finance at Syracuse. And what I feel like what I just come to learn is just that the quicker that you could kind of give somebody those tools and that understanding of budgeting, of financial literacy, of how to move your money in the right way. That way they won't live so much in survival. Teaching them how to save. I got close friends who didn't have a bank account to their senior year in college. That used to blow my mind. I was like, what? I had one since I was 16, but I had to. They didn't have those type of situations. So even like the event we did last year, in the building, we taught them financial literacy and then gave all the kids a bank account with some cash in it. I don't know the stat off the top of my head, but it's something like financial stat. Like the sooner that you have a savings account as a kid, the more likely you'll be, financially, sound. So I had to learn a lot of lessons, because life threw them at me early on. So I guess my whole thought process behind the whole thing is just how soon or how much can I try to give those lessons on to a kid who's not going through those things, but they can still learn those things at a younger age, I guess.
When you're talking with, kids in black communities, does it help that it's coming from you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's a big thing. That's the thing that nobody wants to talk about, but they need to see people that's like them. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think that's like a big thing. Like when I go to these companies, whether it's Meta, the Sixers, shout out to Brittany Boyd. She's the senior VP at the Sixers of marketing, and but those young girls need to see a black woman that's from the situation that they're from, that's achieving the things that they want to. It's just visualization. You know what I mean? It's the same way when I'm walking through, I like to see myself on tape, or I like to see guys that fit the body type and the play style that I have. So I'm like, okay, I can make that type of play. Same way those kids feel the same way. Like they want to see women that look like them or men that look like them that's from situations like them, because then that makes them feel like the problems that they're going through are conquerable. Like, oh, I could overcome this because, hey, look, if Zaire could do it, look, I could do it. And that's all I ever want for the kids.
When you've gone on those trips to Meta or Google, what if you kind of mentioned like you're kind of like a kid getting out of it.
Yeah.
When you when you start thinking about life after football and you do those trips, are you also kind of thinking like, what? I don't know if you're going to work for Google or anything, but like you kind of start thinking, does that kind of start your mind thinking on that too?
Well, I ain't gonna lie. So when I went to Google, I think it was after my first year. I'm 7th round pick. I'm like, look, man, I don't know. This might not work out. I might need to, parlay something in here. Now, I don't know. I made a little too much money for that. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. But but it's definitely cool. I think it's awesome, especially too for like my fiance. She got her degree in IT, but she went more the bank route. But it's kind of to see like, look, this is a different way to kind of do tech. And like, you go to Google and you find out like, man, these guys don't work. These guys in here playing Tap Dance Revolution. Like the guy that came up with Google Docs did it because he was playing with Legos and didn't feel like going back to work. And I'm like, man, that's crazy. I love Google Docs. Like that's the best idea I ever heard of. And he came up with that playing with Legos. So it's just kind of like, it's just dope to see that. Like, I think it's kind of interesting. People always talk about like, the NFL and the difference between teams. And it's like, there's 32 different companies. You know what I mean? It's like, you think about, okay, Meta, Meta and Google, those are two different cultures, two different ways of going about their things. And I think it's just very interesting to kind of see how these big, powerful, and successful companies, how their culture is like in their building, and kind of how they run their teams and how they get the most out of their employees. Yeah. I always think that's like super interesting.
As I was going through this, I was thinking like I want to ask Zaire about what he wants to do after football, but I'm like, this is kind of weird timing because you just set the franchise record for tackles. So like talking about life after football is kind of a weird time. But how much do you have to think about that as someone who has seen what life looks like on the other side after football?
I think it's for every player, it's always on your mind. You know what I mean? I think it's one of them situations where you just kind of waiting for the ball to drop because you never know. God willing, I play for another 10 years. But I know I just want to be prepared for whenever that day comes. So for me, it's just, keeping my option open, being open-minded, understanding that I'm going to struggle with the transition regardless, even if that's coaching or scouting.
Why do you think that is?
Man, you've just been an athlete for so long. It's been such a big part of who you are. Such a big part of your life, your personality, how you walk, how you introduce yourself. So that's why for me personally, I'm always big on not letting one thing define me. But I understand that being an athlete is a big part of who I am. I've been working out every day basically since I was like 14. Like I've been lifting weights since that long. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to stop. Once
Yeah,
I stop
yeah.
playing, now I ain't gonna be squatting 400 pounds no more. That's probably done. But I think it's definitely gonna be in transition. But I think as long as I'm open minded, as long as I continue to expand my life off the field, I think I'll be in a good position.
How much does leadership kind of come to you in that? Because you're a team captain, three-time team captain here. How much of that do you think about how you could use that trait that you have in life after football?
I think it's funny because I was you talk to like former teammates in college, and they're doing great things, and or even guys who transition out of the league, and then you realize like, oh, like we constantly working with other people from extremely different type of backgrounds, team building. Obviously, it's just funny how much it really translates. You kind of just worried about being a great guy in the linebacker room, and trying to be positive in the defensive meeting room, and trying to build bonds with guys on the other side of the ball to you, and then you start to really realize like, okay, you working in a business, all these tools are actually transferable in another standpoint. I guess that's just like a perspective you get when you go to like Google and Meta and stuff like that. So I definitely think it is a lot of translation, and hopefully it's something that comes into play, but not no time soon.
Yeah, no time soon, obviously.
Indeed.
For you, just the who you are now as a football player, like you have all this structure around being in the building. You have this deep identity, but you say it's not the only part of you that you want to be defined by. Do you want to be defined too as someone who has a legacy of giving back, who has a legacy of impacting people? Because I think that part of it, the way that you're so hands-on with it, I think is really neat. Like you're not just saying, hey, we're going to, throw some money at this. You really like put a lot of effort into it. How much is that just you want that to be kind of part of how your story is told?
Well, for me personally, I want that to be first and foremost that, yes, he was a great player. Yes, he was a great leader, but he affected every community in which he was in a positive manner, and he left it better than how he found it. I guess that's just my big goal. As far as my community service style, I feel like that's just who I am. I know a lot of guys that give back and they do it in different ways, but for me, it's boots on the ground, it's time, it's energy. Honestly, it's no better cure for a game, whether I play great or play bad, than going into a high school or hanging around some kids or whatever that is, man, because it just resets you, puts you back at ground zero. It's like you back in 7th grade all over again, and then it's just like it gives you so much perspective on the things that you're doing and how blessed we really are to to play this game. So for me, how I like to carry things, I'm a little bit of a control freak too. That's why I'm so hands-on, but at the same time, that's just really how I like to run things. I like to put my heart in it, because I feel like that's just how you gonna get the best version of me. And I feel the same way about the team. I gotta put my heart and my soul in it, and I'm gonna give you every part of me, and that's the only way you're gonna get the best version of me.
All right, speaking of heart and soul and the best version, you got a Philly cheesesteak here named after you.
I do, actually. Shout out to Hoagies and Hops.
So, okay, how long did it take Hoagies and Hops to get that sandwich right?
They actually got it good. So
yeah?
They posted it, and then I think they tagged me, Nick, and Matt, because Matt's from Philly. If
Conti,
you didn't know
yeah.
Matt Ryan.
Oh,
Well, Conti is from Philly. Shout out to Conti.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Matt Ryan's from Philly. I don't know, but we claiming Matt Ryan. So here we go. Hall of Famer.
Should be.
Indeed. So they tagged all of us, and I was like, dang, what a kid from Philly got to do to get a cheesesteak? And they was like, what's your order? So then they whipped it up. And then I think right after the season, I treated the whole training room to the cheesesteak. It's actually fire, though. So, yeah, definitely go check that out.
Because Matt Conti is from Philly.
Oh, yeah, no
He
question.
said it was good.
No, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's really good. When I ate, I had 2. So, yeah, no.
That's probably pretty hard to get out here in the Midwest, though, like a real Philly cheese. Like, okay, so what makes a real Philly cheesesteak?
I would say it starts with the bread.
Okay.
I would say it starts with the bread, and I think that's why the hoagie's so good. They ship them in from Jersey, I believe.
Is it like an Italian bread or like a French bread? Or?
I would just say it's more so consistency. They
Okay.
call them subs, we call them hoagies.
Yep.
I won't get into the debate of what it actually is, but that's really much what it is. The hoagie roll And, you know, obviously you got to chop up the ribeye and get it right. You know, I'm not a big whiz guy. I like American.
Okay.
You know, I go mayonnaise because I like mayonnaise. I know some people don't like mayonnaise. You know, salt, pepper,
It's controversial.
ketchup. Salt, pepper, ketchup is like a base to your cheesesteak, though. Salt, pepper, ketchup is just, that's how we starting it. Like, that's immediately. Like, salt, pepper, ketchup. I like mustard. Some people don't like mustard. That's fine. You know, and then I also like sweet peppers. I like sweet peppers in mine, too. So, your cheesesteak is like, it's like your Chipotle order. It's like a personalized thing to you. So that's why I was just in the turn room telling them today, like, what is a Philly cheesesteak? Like, that whole concept to me bothers me because, like, everybody in Philly eats a different cheesesteak.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I thought it was just steak and cheese whiz. Seriously, that's what I thought it was.
No.
You looked at me like I'm an idiot.
No. No, it's not that. But it's everybody got their own order. I'm like, my best friend, he likes cheesesteak hoagies, which is more like with lettuce and tomatoes. Now, I wouldn't get lettuce and tomatoes on my cheesesteak, but I know a lot of people that love it. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So, and same way people look at me crazy for getting mustard, but I love mustard. So
you can get your cheesesteak to order at Hops and Hoagies the way that you want it to be.
Yes, sir.
That's great. Little
Indeed.
taste of home.
Got to. Yeah, it tastes good. But I'm cutting weight right now. I got to fall back on the cheesesteak stuff.
All right, last one for you. I had a conversation with you in the locker room just about like the rigors of going through an NFL season and how in it you mentioned you gained an appreciation playing this game for like what other athletes go through. So like what did you do when the 76ers lost in the playoffs? Like how did you handle knowing what those guys had to put their bodies through while being a fan and being devastated that your team lost? How did you handle that?
That hurts because I know you're a Chicago fan, so I feel like you're trying me right now. But that's cool.
I'm a Bulls fan. I got no leg to stand on.
But
here.
that's why I'm shocked. But it's okay. You know, me and Conte are still actively grieving. But you know, I understand what it's like, man. It definitely hurts. You know, you put all you got, you know, into a season, especially when you get that close. You know, those are the ones that hurt. But especially for your body, man. You know, I think, you know, especially this past year, playing all those snaps. Just understanding, you know, what it takes every week, you know, to get your body, you know, capable of being able to play at a high level over and over again. You know, I told Kenny, you know, I'm like, man, Kenny and Buck, I'm like, bro, especially Buck. Buck's a warrior, bro.
That guy plays an unbelievable amount of snaps.
Buck's a warrior, bro. So I'm like, man, you guys, you know, another level of respect. You guys already inspire me, but, man, look, add something else to y'all jacket because – you know, it definitely takes a different grind, but I think, you know, that's something that you kind of learn from the vets. And we be telling the rookies, man, it's really about your routine. You know, stick to your routine, man. Stick to it. Constantly stay on top of stuff. Don't let the small things become big. And, you know, you're going to have some nicks and crannies, but you tough. Play through that. You all right.
All right. It's Zaire Franklin here on the Person Behind the Pads podcast. Z, thanks for joining us.
For sure. Appreciate you having me.